In this video from the 2017 World Games, we're going to look at how Colombia adapt their offense to effectively counter the one-to-one defense Poland play against them. During the game, it became apparent that the Colombian women were winning their matchups with greater ease than the Colombian men. To play to this advantage, Colombia manipulate the space on the field to reduce the risk of clogging and poaching from the male defenders, and maximise the space available to the women, in this case on the far sideline and deep, whilst the men are concentrated in the near sideline and backfield areas. There is some initial poaching from the male defenders, but the Colombian men stay involved and calmly take the open pass. The women on the far side have now formed a triangle. They are no longer being inhibited by poachers, and they have a clear channel to the end zone. Note how the male players resist the urge to reposition downfield when the disc is near the sideline, instead trying to draw their defenders away from poaching positions. Once the Colombian women are in flow, the offense looks fairly unstoppable, with the defenders not able to apply any real pressure. However, in the end, the turnover is caused by an unforced execution error. Colombia get the disc back later in the point, but the women are disconnected at the start of the offense, and there is some sagging and poaching from the defenders. When one of Poland's male defenders gets sucked in on a poaching opportunity, their mark rightly takes off deep, but the disc doesn't come, and when he comes back we see Colombia fall into a similar setup to the one we saw earlier. The women retain their shape deep on the far sideline, whilst the men take a few easy open passes to keep the tempo of the offense. The triangle shape makes it very difficult for the Polish female defenders to poach or switch effectively. When Laura Ospina gets the disc, Colombia have a favourable one-to-one matchup completely isolated in the attacking half of the field, where Regina Cartagena scores without the defence having a bid. By utilising the space on the field, manipulating the defence and taking the open pass, Colombia were able to play to their advantage, their female one-to-one matchups, whilst minimising the poaching opportunities for the male defenders. Utilising space and manipulating defence happens with all offences, but which offensive structure would be most suited to this gender-weighted tactic? Vertical stack creates space down the sides of the field, but is very susceptible to poaching, as one or two male defenders start in the centre of the downfield space. 4 women in the stack with 3 men in the backfield is possible, but is open to counter tactics such as defenders sagging off the handlers or downfield defenders surrounding the vertical stack to make it over-concentrated and difficult to initiate flow from. Splitting the vertical stack takes things to the extreme. It maximises the space available, but it asks cutters to make big initial movements to get free. This is well suited to the hard-cutting, yards-focused style which is prevalent in the game at the moment, particularly in North America. How about horizontal stack? This is more dynamic and can work in a few different ways. When there are 2 male defenders downfield, poaching could become a problem, so having 3 downfield female players can work nicely, offering loads of space. My favourite setup, which will come as no surprise to anyone familiar with my work, is called hexagon offense. This setup naturally supports the triangle shape Colombia's women were forming, whilst keeping every other player connected, meaning that any poaching can be quickly and easily punished. Space in the hex setup is created dynamically. When one player makes a cut, they create a space where they came from, which is not how it works in vertical or in split stack. This new space can be used by any adjacent teammates, and unlike horizontal stack, these second cuts can be made directly from the setup positions within the hex shape. This dynamic creation and use of space has a cascading effect, which maximises options for the offense and denies the defense any leverage. Hex has taught me a lot about Ultimate, and there's a bunch of other reasons why I prefer it to traditional offences. But I digress, I can talk about that more in another video. If 4 women are on the field, winning their matchups, perhaps related to a lack of female subs from the opposition, then a number of other interesting setups are possible to make use of this advantage. I didn't get a chance to speak to Mauricio Moore, the Colombian coach, about this video at all, so it's just things that I've kind of seen and my interpretation of them. He did an interview recently, which is really worth checking out. It's a subtitled one, it's in Spanish, but the subtitles are great. He's clearly got a way with words. I'll put the link down in the description below. Definitely check it out. I think everyone can learn from his experiences and what he has to say. He says they focus very little on on-field tactics, so probably they just identified that the women were mismatched and just encouraged the men to stay back and out of the way, whilst the women had their own kind of space to work with, rather than it being like something they're drilled or kind of like a formal structure or arrangement they had. In this way, I think they're similar to Japan in terms of national teams, in that they're more dynamic and organic with how they play, rather than kind of sticking to like set rules and cutting patterns and reset patterns. They kind of make it up as they go along to a certain extent, which is an approach that I really like. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've upgraded my setup since the last video I made, so I've got like a webcam now and a new microphone and stuff. Heard that the old microphone was a bit muffled, so upgraded. Any other feedback, I'm happy to take on board. Always looking to improve. I know that I'm like reading a script a lot of the time, so I'm trying to make that a bit better, a bit more natural, a bit more flowing. If you like this video, then share it, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more.